I'm doing well. I'm currently in the Carroll Hall, George Mason, in their econ department.
Okay. Yeah. I like how you announce your location for the entire world. That's very
I,
characteristic.
well, that seems to have it's blown up a bit in my face recently, but oopsie whoops.
Yeah. Yeah, unquestionably. So I met you Manifest last year, 2023, in the Bay Area. Where was that? What city was that?
Well,
That was
2024, but yeah.
2024. Yeah, we met Berkeley, the Manifest conference, and I had known your work before. I had seen you blogging a few times, and I
hmm
encouraged you to write more often.
hmm
And looks like you did take that advice. I did notice an uptick in your writing soon afterwards, and you were not afraid to offend people. And I think most of your posts are. I don't know if people have. Most people probably saw this was probably the first thing they ever saw of you. And let's see
Yeah.
how many you have 739 comments and 317 likes. So you have 317 likes. That's a lot of that's still a lot of likes.
Yeah.
Um and and so yeah, I mean you weren't afraid to you're not afraid to provoke people, obviously. But most of your work was just like kind of academic kind of econometrics, talking about studies and different economists and their ideas. And I think I think you're a good explainer of these fundamental economic concepts. So, what made you just get up one day and decided you know what you're doing here? When must we kill them? I mean, you know what you're doing here. What made you get up one morning and decide to write this?
Because I think that the conduct of the present administration is altogether unprecedented. Or perhaps I
Mhm.
shouldn't use unprecedented because that would, immediately provoke a search for maybe this is similar in the past. But it's certainly very bad, and I think unusually bad. And I wanted my fellow liberals to understand that, like, um, if they do things that would cancel democracy or annul the elections or whatnot, there is ultimately no recourse outside of force at the end of the day. And to me, war means fighting, and fighting means killing. And so I don't believe in mincing words on that.
Yeah, and just I mean to start with, you don't say we should do this today
No,
or
absolutely not.
tomorrow. Yeah.
Beyond the matters of effectiveness, which I think would be absurd and ineffectual. And frankly, I think that mass shooters, even assassins, are largely stupid and unmotivated and uh, just generally very poorly thinking.
Mhm.
So absolutely not. I think, however, that there must surely exist a line for people, and I would consider. I would ask people to consider, where that line is, so that we are not caught in a little Belarus.
Yeah. So, like, I think in theory, if you say there is no line, it's a kind of a crazy position to take that there's no line ever. At which point, you would fight the government, right? I think that's
Certainly.
that's kind of an
It,
extreme
to,
position,
to me, that
and
that makes sense only basically if you have extremely strong religious feelings, which I understand and respect, though, anyone who does feel that way.
yeah. Well, I think I think our friend Brian Kaplan, he's not religious, but he would say something like he's pretty much a pacifist. So he's written
hmm
about this a few times. So he basically I don't know if he's ever written specifically about fighting your government, but he's written about international affairs. And his view is basically, you never know like when fighting is actually going to lead to a better result. So it's just better to surrender. So you don't necessarily have to. You can we have at least one person who doesn't have a
hmm
religious objection to war, and is basically an absolute pacifist.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Um, one can disagree.
Yeah, so it is like mainstream to say we're headed in an authoritarian direction. I I say that myself. I think that this is very frightening what the Trump administration is doing. And what's like kind of what things that they're doing are you most upset about, or what do you find most concerning?
I'm extremely concerned that if you can ship somebody overseas without due process and there's no recourse at that point, there doesn't seem to necessarily be a limiting principle. Maybe they'll keep it only to people who speak Spanish, but that's not the sort of limiting principle, that I would hope for. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
and-
you know, it's kind of crazy. I've been tweeting about this the last few days. It's like Trump says he can basically disappear a non-citizen,
Mhm.
and nobody can review it, and nobody can tell him to try to get him back
And
from
he's
the country that
strongly
he.
Trump says many things, and many of them are often contradictory with things that he said earlier. So it's difficult to say what he believes. But he
Yeah,
wants to ship the homegrown, the citizens off as well.
he
Um,
said that.
and now it's
Yeah.
possible that if he meets with, that will get whatever action is whoever the last advisors he meets with on a particular day is. But I think there are elements in the administration who do very much want that. Um, and I certainly think those elements of the administration are very bad.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, as I was saying, so the first thing, I mean, they say they can do it to non-citizens. They say they can do it to citizens if they're convicted of crimes.
Hmm.
Trump regularly says people who oppose him are criminals.
Hmm.
Right. So he's got a very broad definition of criminal.
Hmm.
And, and they're shipping people over, overseas. They're revoking visas over purely
Yeah.
speech, purely what they believe about American foreign policy. So
Yeah.
that's a quite scary combination. And this is another thing that scares me. And maybe you can tell me if this sounds right to you. I'm scared by not just Trump and his intentions, but his movement. Like these people, if you just watch them on Twitter, and these are big people. These are, we're talking about congressmen. I'm talking about Fox News. I'm talking about major social media personalities with 6 and 7 figure accounts.
Hmm.
So I'm not picking random people who like Trump.
No, no.
I'm picking like the prominent voices in conservative media and the people in his administration. Basically, they all like did a 2-minute hate against this guy Abrego Garcia. They've decided that the number one priority is to convince everyone that this guy, who maybe is not a good guy or whatever, I don't care, he's never been convicted of a crime, but
Yeah.
the idea that he's like the root of all evil, like because like you found out that he had a domestic abuse issue a few years ago, like you are
Hmm.
somehow justified, and like these people, they're such cultists, and they are so unconnected, like they're so good at missing the point that like I have 0% doubt that the people defending this, the vast majority of prominent people defending this, would defend locking up citizens. Like there is no way that it's just because this guy's a non-citizen that they're okay with it. They are basically okay with it. Whatever Trump wants to do, whatever triggers the libs, and that's the guiding principle. Foreigners they don't like, but it's all about Trump. It's all about tribalism, and it's all
Hmm.
about taking these positions. And this is what's frightening to me. Like he's going to have to be stopped by courts, by people outside the administration. There is nothing within the administration or the conservative movement at this point that's ever going to pose any kind of resistance to what Trump is doing.
Yeah, I mean, certainly I'm concerned, and I don't particularly care for their views. So,
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I have to say that I think that this kind of talk, will say that theoretically it's okay to say there's some limit. I don't think we're there yet. And I think
mhm,
there's a kind of cost of talking about this, not just because it's bad for you personally or, whatever, it's going to get you in trouble or people mad at you. I think these kind of things, when you say these things, you have to
mhm,
kind of think about what's the reaction going to be. Right. And there could be a moment where we're there, but I don't think we're that close to it. And from that perspective, like you're just kind of, there's a book called How Democracies Die by two political scientists. And they talk about like one of the things that authoritarians um, often it's a kind of transition from like this populist rule to authoritarian rule. And one
mhm,
thing they do is like when the other side tries to do things that are sort of out of bounds or outside norms, things like assassination attempts or like,
mhm,
you impeach somebody when the kind of you're using the impeachment process in a way that you don't normally, or you try to use some kind of extra legal means. Often, that's the catalyst that makes the problem worse. Right. So that's why I don't think that this is a healthy direction to go. Like just having these conversations.
mhm.
What do you think about that?
I think that's perfectly reasonable, um, and um, I think what I said was true, but quite possibly not helpful.
Hmm.
However, uh, to be frank, I think that the marginal cost of me speaking about it is very low. Because it's my strong belief that if it were not me, it would be somebody else, right? In the sense of something that right wingers are getting very angry at, right? Um, I try and avoid looking at their stuff by and large. But
Mm,
it's my understanding is that Fox News is generally mad at something every day, and and I'm sure in a nation of what 340 million,
yeah.
somewhere around there, people there's enough bad things to get mad at. So I'd rather write what I believe, which is mainly intended towards people of my sympathy and persuasion,
Mm,
um, insofar as this might be very bad, um,
mm,
and it's not so much that I think that we should be prepared to kill; it's more that we should be prepared to die.
mm,
Um, and to me, I think that's far more heroic, by the way, than fighting,
yeah.
as self-sacrifice. Um, because I shouldn't say that because it's unnecessarily self-aggrandizing, and I want to avoid any implication of that. So
Mm. Yeah. So, I mean, I will say that you have shown personal bravery. There's a lot of faux bravery out there. I mean, a lot of people, will act like they break taboos, but they're often, just talking about wokeness or whatever, and they have kind of an anti woke followership. And you just wrote this article knowing that. The world was going to come down. You knew, like, how big did you? Are you surprised that is this bigger than you
I'm
thought it would be?
certain this is considerably bigger than I thought it would be.
Okay. As
Even
soon as I saw the headline, yeah.
even my controversial, but I mean to be fair, maybe because like my normal, if my prior posts were quotas in general equilibrium, some misconceptions about banking, the life's work of Esther Duflo, Obije Banerjee, and Michael Kremer.
Yeah.
These are I would appreciate if people got very, very mad about
Mm.
a sufficient statistic approach to estimating the cost of quotas. But
Mm.
unfortunately, people just don't get angry enough about that. Go check it out. Great
Yeah.
paper. David Bakoe and new fellow who's going to be Sangani, who's going to be a professor at Northwestern. Excellent work. Bakoe, I think, is a shoe-in at this point. If he continues his career, he's a shoe-in for the Nobel Prize in 30
Well,
years.
there you go.
Incredible
Okay.
work.
Yeah. Okay. So I think when as soon as I saw the post, I saw it before it went viral. I knew. Like, this is about what I expected, and maybe because I have more experience with these kind of things, that like I sort of have a sense of like what's going to piss people off. And I mean, what you did was, I mean, the headline is kind of, you know these people, they don't read me on the headline. So yeah, I mean, obviously. Um, Yeah, and another thing you did, didn't you? I saw that you took like basically barely veiled quotations from the Declaration of Independence. Is that right?
Yes, it's basically stapled together Declaration of Independence plus Lincoln's second inaugural plus Bismarck plus Churchill.
Hmm. Oh, you should have left out Bismarck. You should have just left the Declaration of Independence, because now they'll say they're mad at the Bismarck parts. He wasn't
Yeah,
a hero in our democratic
well, that
tradition.
I thought that
Yeah, that's blood and
must
iron, right? Yeah, yeah, I
must
saw
be
that.
settled with blood and iron. I
Yeah,
don't know.
why would you cite me?
I was so taken by the by the cadence of the phrase that I
Uh,
just had to include it. Um,
yeah, it's a little bit dated. Yeah, maybe, maybe not. Okay. Um, Anyways, all right. So that's like the article. What's been so you had a visit from the Secret Service.
yes.
Um, Explain that. What do they do? They ring your doorbell?
They ring the doorbell. They asked to speak to Nicholas Decker. I went out and then I was like, "Can I get my phone so that I can record the encounter?" And they were like, "Yeah, go back. You're fine."
Mhm.
And then we chatted for 13 minutes or so. It was perfectly fine and amicable. They wanted basically to know, do I have a gun? They basically wanted to know, are you going to shoot the president? And I was
And
like,
you're like,
no.
no, I don't think
Okay.
so.
And they're like, okay. And just double checking, no mental health issues. You don't have a gun, right? And it's
uh,
like, do you have any weapons? And they're like, "No, I have a kitchen knife and a can opener." So, you know, um, that was the extent of it. And I've also
How many agents were there?
two Secret Service agents and two police officers from the